Thank you so much for joining me today on Facebook Live. I am Antoinette Sedillo Lopez, your state senator in District 16 here in Albuquerque's southeast part of town. The biggest and most exciting thing that has happened for New Mexico is Congresswoman Deb Haaland's appointment as our next Secretary of Interior. This historic and trailblazing appointment will be a tremendous addition to the President's cabinet. As a woman of color, I am so inspired by soon-to-be Secretary Haaland's fierce leadership and her example. When Congresswoman Haaland officially gets sworn in as Secretary Haaland, a vacancy for her seat will be created. And I am announcing today that I intend to fill that vacancy, to run to fill that vacancy. Many of you know me as a state senator and a congressional candidate from 2 years ago. But I want to tell you a story about where I come from. I was born here in Albuquerque at the base hospital, and I was raised in Valencia County in Los Chaves, a small farming village. My father was a deputy sheriff in Valencia County, and he made about $400 a month. He and my mom had 5 of us to feed and clothe, and times were often pretty tough. But when it came for time for me to start school in first grade, the teacher assigned me to be in the Yellowbirds. Back then, that was the lowest reading group, and I could see that the other kids were reading and we were coloring. I knew how to read. That placement made me sad, but I didn't say anything to the teacher. But I did tell my dad. He was not the type of parent who challenged teachers, but he asked the teacher why I was in the Yellowbirds, and he told her that I knew how to read. Back then, you had to pay to go to kindergarten, and we didn't have the money. So even though I could read, my teacher said she hasn't attended kindergarten like the students in the Redbirds reading group. Now, those Redbirds had a lot in common. They didn't look like me. She also said that the other group had done a large stack of worksheets, and maybe I could move if I could do the worksheets. I took them home and I did every single one of them that night. When I turned them in the next day, she actually asked me if my parents helped me with them, and she had me do the next one right in front of her. These are the kinds of barriers that young girls, particularly young women and girls of color, face and continue to face every day. With hard work, support, and lots of luck, I overcame those barriers. And my experiences fuel my commitment to open doors and fight for change. I went on to graduate from Belen High School with honors from UNM undergraduate and then from UCLA Law School. I clerked at the DC Circuit, where Justice Ruth Ginsburg served before her appointment to the Supreme Court. I came back to Albuquerque in 1983 and practiced law for 3 years. And then I spent 27 years as a law professor at UNM. I love teaching at UNM, but there came a time that I felt like I wanted to do more for my community. I left the law school and I became the executive director of Enlace Comunitario, an immigrant-focused domestic violence agency. When Trump was, and I like to say it this way, selected by the Electoral College in 2016, people encouraged me to run for then Congresswoman Lujan Grisham's seat. And I knew that I had a lot to offer, both with my background and the skills and values that I've worked so hard to develop. My core values are justice, equity, and stewardship. When I ran for Congress, I listened to so many people around our congressional district, and I heard so many folks tell me about their problems with healthcare, their worries about the environment, their insecurities about their jobs, their inability to take paid time off. They told me how they didn't feel safe in our communities, and they shared their fears about our way of life and democracy being destroyed by Trump's corrosive policies. I heard about fears about federal overreach, such as ICE showing up at the courthouses to detain people, and people's horror at the divisive rhetoric from our president and from some of our community members. I developed a progressive agenda that is consistent with my core values and that was responsive to what I was hearing. I ran on that progressive agenda. Well, a lot has changed in 2 years. I've had the opportunity to serve in the state Senate as I was recommended by the Bernalillo County Commissioners and appointed by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham to fill my state senator's seat when he joined her administration 2 years ago. I was committed to the agenda that I had developed, and as a state senator, I continued to hear of people's fears and concerns about where our country is headed if we don't right this ship. In my time serving in the state Senate, I have brought attention to the high environmental and health costs of the oil and gas industry by proposing that we pause fracking for 4 years to consider its impact on our air, our land, our water, and our health. I did this despite the fact that oil and gas is so dominant in our state political scene. I stood up to that dominant industry. And unfortunately, the pandemic, the market, the declining price of oil and gas has revealed the danger of this state relying so much on such a volatile extractive industry. The pandemic and the downturn has revealed that exporting our natural resources while polluting our air, our land, our water is not good for New Mexico's long-term outlook. I also have successfully co-sponsored the Domestic Violence and Gun Safety Bill to protect community safety. I successfully co-sponsored a bill to allow individuals to change their gender identification on birth certificates without needing to get a costly operation. I successfully co-sponsored a bill to compile and track crucial data about our water, which is a first step to address our water quality and quantity issues. I serve as vice chair of the Conservation Committee, and I serve on other important committees such as Health and Human Services. And I have even learned more about the important work of making law and governing. Now, today, we are in a global pandemic and a deep economic hole. But the end is in sight. We have a new president who is focused on uniting us and healing the wounds of our country, and who actually trusts scientists and pursues evidence-based public policy. We have a historic vice president who will be his partner in affecting change. Our scientists have developed a vaccine, so the end of the pandemic is near. But one of the things that the pandemic has done is it has laid bare the need for a progressive agenda to undo the disastrous policies of the Trump administration. My values, justice, equity, and stewardship are key as we build our society and institutions that have been devastated for the last 4 years. Medicare for all, health equity, the Green New Deal, a just transition to clean energy, reproductive justice, police accountability, and demilitarizing our police so that we return to peace officers and not warriors. Reversing Citizens United are just a few of the legislative initiatives that I champion and support. I bring more to the table now. I am still passionate about the people in our state and serving you. We need to focus on what people need and not on corporate greed. I am ready. Will you join me? Sign up at the link in the comments below, and together we will work to bring the change we need. I want to be very clear and transparent about my plans and my priorities. My priority right now is to participate fully in the upcoming legislative session. We have an opportunity to get a lot done, such as a green amendment to the New Mexico Constitution, which is a transformational constitutional right to clean air, land, and water. A police accountability bill to address the problems with toxic water, a police accountability bill to address the problems that we've seen with the police lately. A bill to address the problems that the toxic water spills have caused for our environment, and so much more. Now, I am committed to doing the people's work as my priority. I have researched this very carefully, and it is possible to work in the legislature and work very hard, and to also run aggressively for this office when the vacancy occurs early next year. My campaign will continue to be a grassroots campaign. As always, I will not take corporate PAC money, NRA, or oil and gas money. I will accept small donations, but I will not be dialing for dollars from rich donors during the session. I want to make clear that I will accept small individual donations for people to choose to support me, and I will remain accountable to the people always. Please, please join me. And thank you so much for your time and checking out this video. May God bless.